Hi, this is Judy with the PQP Stitch Club, and I'd like you to meet Deb Eggers of Cottage Rose Quilts. Deb has been creating lovely designs for our magazine for years. Many of them are my favorites. Hi, Deb. Want to tell us a little bit about yourself and Cottage Rose Quilts?
So I'm Deb from Cottage Rose Quilt. I've been designing since about 2011 or so, and have, like you said, been in your magazine several times. The big thing we do is I go to quilt shows across the country and vend to display my quilts and get everybody out there to know me. So I don't know. I love doing. I quilt every day.
Mm, That's nice. That's very nice. And you probably meet a lot of really neat, fun people when you do this.
Oh, we do. I say we. My husband goes with me, so I always say it's we. But it's me.
Yeah. And what's your husband's name?
Ray.
Ray. Okay. All right. Because everybody needs to know that too,
I
right?
know. I know. When they see him in the booth, they've got to say hi, Ray.
Okay. All right. Do you have any shows coming up in the next few months?
We'll start out again in mid-January out at Road to California, and then on
Mhm.
to Phoenix, and I don't know. And then it's just one after another.
Oh
We
my
do
gosh.
probably about 15, 17 shows a year. So
Ooh, that's quite a few. And where are you located?
we're in Marion, Iowa. So I don't have a storefront though, so don't try to find me. You'd be knocking at my front door. But
Okay. Well, tell us about your sleigh ride quilt and how you came up with this idea.
well, I don't know. I actually, when I am one of those designers who never has a full idea in mind when I start, and so I kind of started with the half square triangle design and everything, and I was just going to make the whole quilt like that and put a border on it. And then I'm like, well, wait a minute, where's my applique? I love to applique. So I actually stopped as I got partway through it and decided that I'd add that applique border to it. Um, so and then again, as I got to the border, the outside border, I'm like, what am I going to do? So and it all worked out. It does. So
Really pretty. I like the cornerstones with the
and that was kind of a last minute decision too, because in that
uh-huh.
border I thought, oh, I'll just put a big green square there or whatever. And then I'm like, that just didn't it just looked blah. So I had
Yeah.
to add those. So yeah.
Uh-huh. Really pretty. And I like that you have the applique going up just one side of the quilt too. It's
Yeah. It was
interesting.
just a choice.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Okay. Well, would you like to demonstrate anything about this quilt for us?
Yeah, I'm going to demonstrate how I hand applique. Now, there's several ways of doing hand applique. This is just the way I do it. And sometimes it's kind of fun to try somebody else's idea because you might say, hey, I like that one better. So this is just, again, one way. And this is something that I've done for years this way. I do try other ways, but I keep going back to this. So we'll kind of show you what I do anyway.
All right.
My,
Does the tech does is this like needle turn or
it
does it
is
have it?
needle. It is needle turn. I
Okay.
I've tried machine applique and in all my patterns, I say, if that's the way you like to do it and that's where you're comfortable with, do that. This is just something that I could sit down and do and it just kind of go into a comfort zone. I just really love doing it. So when I try to machine applique, that tenses me up. I can't do it, but some people do beautiful that way. So do whatever makes you comfortable. This is just my needle turn way. So yeah. The first thing I do is I always have freezer paper on hand. I mean, you can buy the freezer paper in the roll, the Reynolds Wrap freezer paper. I use that a lot, especially if those pieces are really large because you can't get them on an 8.5 by 11. But they do make freezer paper that comes in 8.5 by 11 sizes that you can actually run through your printer. So on this one, of course, I just traced it, like I said, on a piece of freezer paper, just tear it off, trace it on. This one here, I actually did on that, and I just ran it through my printer. That's on the 8.5 by 11. With this one and the shapes being so repetitive, you could do it on this 8.5 by 11 paper and just run off like 4 copies because you can use this shape over and over again. I say probably 4 to 5 times you can use it. So it takes 8 of my little shapes like this. So if I ran off 4 copies of it on the printer, I could just use this shape twice each time, or use it over twice, I should say. But
Nice.
so when you do trace it on there, the next thing is that you are actually going to cut it out right on the line. So I'll show you here. So that shape is just cut right out on the line. I then take it to my iron and I go ahead and just fuse that. And that's the shiny side of the paper down to the right side of my fabric. So, and then I'll just take a pencil, such as like the ceramic chalk pencils, the Bowen ceramic chalk pencils. The reason I like those is they do a fine line around it. You can get them in colors. I do most of mine on dark, so I use a lot of white, but I use gray if I'm doing it on a light fabric. And I just actually will trace.
And let's go back and also when you talk about cutting it out and cutting it right up to the line, a question I have. So that's the line printed on the template. You just cut on the line of the template, right?
Yes.
So,
right line of the template. Yes.
Okay.
So that shape is. I can kind of show that. So go ahead and get my scissors. I go ahead and just trim it to where I need, and I will just cut right on that line. Now, see if I can do this when I'm looking at it weird here, because I usually hold it up so I can see it better. But yeah, I want to cut right out on that line because that is going to be the outer edge of my. When I turn it under, the outer edge of my applique shape. So I'm just going to cut all the way around that, just like I did on this one here. See, now I pulled that away, but then I'm going to trace it. Do you want me to go back over that again?
Yeah, go back over that, and Ray, see if you can zoom in closer.
Okay, so then I just take like the Bowen mechanical chalk pencil. The reason I like them is they are very sharp. They do a nice thin line. They don't break easy. And I'll just draw right around. I'll just trace right around that outside of my shape and just go all the way around it, type of situation. Then what you'll end up doing is just pulling that paper away. It leaves no residue on here, doesn't cause any problems, like I said, and then that's reusable. So I'll use this shape again because, like I said, I needed it 8 times in this quilt. So I'll just reuse this one again until it kind of gets too much fabric lint or dust on the back, but no, and doesn't adhere well when I iron it. And then go ahead and I'll take that shape and I'm actually going to cut about 1/4 to 1/8 inch away. I'm one that would rather leave a little bit extra around it and trim it down if I need to than to trim it so close that when I go to turn it, it frays. So I will just kind of cut out just enough around it. And I'll just go ahead. I already cut out this one, so I'll show you on that. So this one is just totally cut out. Okay. So see how it's all cut out? Now I'm going to go ahead and lay it on my background piece and pin it in place. For this, I just cut out this little piece because that's just going to demo it to you. But when you get up here to the quilt, Ray, I make sure and lay that whole section out and pin it all in place before I start. That way, if I'm seeing that something is just out of place or it looks like it needs filler or I need to do something different, I can kind of shift the piece before I even start. If I would start in that upper corner and just do the first piece, I might get down to the bottom and realize, oh, I didn't leave enough room at the top to get all of it in there. So I make sure and lay that whole section out and pin it in place. And in the pattern, there is the diagram of how to lay that out or kind of give you a visual of how I laid it out type of thing. So once you get it all pinned on, you're ready to go ahead and start. When I needle turn, I like to use a very fine needle, and so I'll use an applique or a Milner needle, they're called, and they're a very nice thin shaft, but also a very thin eye, so that makes that threading sometimes kind of difficult. And it also has a little bit of flex to it, so as I'm going in and out of that material, I can get it to shift or move on me as I need it. Again, sometimes you end up bending that needle, and once it gets to be a real bent needle, I just throw it away because otherwise it's not doing me any good. So always have a pack of needles on hand for you. With that, then I also use a very thin thread, like I said, and what I use is an 80 weight. They do go up to 100 weight, and so of course the higher the number, the thinner the thread is. But I do like the 80 weight, and this is just an Aurifil 80 weight. Yeah. So, and then when I get to that point, so here I am to that point, and I'll just wad the fabric up in my hand. As I'm doing it, I don't hoop it. I don't do anything else. You'll see that this is a little bit of an ear. I will take, if I can find my scissors here, and just trim that little bit there so that it's not all wadded up onto that point.
Yeah, let's see if we can get a close up of that.
So what this did here is I took, and that little point was on there. I just, as I folded that under, so I just trimmed that off so it's not all wadded up under there. Okay. And then I'm just I kind of just stuff it in so that you get, so now you're getting back. I will take one little stitch right into that point and then another really tiny stitch right on the other side of where I started that point. And my thumbs probably get in the way because I do use my thumb a lot to hold it in place. So now that little is all pointed. Now you see I'm coming to this little section. And again, to get that nice, I'm going to have to take my scissors and just cut right here. I don't want to cut to the line, but almost up to that line. So I'm just going to take my scissors. So it's nice to have a little pair of sharp scissors right next to you. And I'm just going to cut right in up to that point. Did you see that? And then when I get to that point, I cut my nails today. So of course now I can't pick up the needle very well. All righty. We'll get it. Usually I don't have this much trouble because I'm not showing anybody. But yeah, stuff right into that point. Okay, and you can see now that was trimmed there. So I'm also going to go right down. And so those are really the two sections you have to worry about, coming to a point and how to do an inside curve or point. And I just really work with my needle. You know, they call it needle turn because a lot of people will take their needle and swoop in there. And sometimes I do, but I just find my fingers work so much better. I remember when I first shoot, I had a lady, she said, chew on a toothpick, keep it moist, and then you can always use your toothpick to push those. So now I took that point and I'm just going to actually take and push that other side up and in. And now here's where I'll use my needle some just to get those fine little threads in. I'll just swoop down into that and get those fine little threads that want to come up and out of there. And then I'll come down to that point. And once again, take a couple little stitches right into that point area. Here's where matching your thread really well does, because you know, you don't want to see that thread. So sometimes that thread does pop through there. And so you just, and if you match the thread, you're never going to see that went right into there. So,
okay. So for this project, Deb, do you sell kits?
I do. I do have kits available. I'm going to include everything for the front of the quilt and the binding. I don't include the backings and quilts because a lot of times people have pieces that they want to use, and it just adds an extra cost that sometimes you're not ready to do. So it has everything for the front and the binding in it. And it is $110 on this one, plus shipping, I should say, plus shipping.
Of course. Yeah, right. And so if our viewers would like to visit your site, buy a kit, find you online, where do they go?
You go to cottagerosequiltshop.com.
Okay. All right.
That's where I am.
Okay. All right. And are you on Facebook or Insta? I was going to say Instacart. Instagram.
Yeah. And it's Cottage Rose Quilt on both Facebook and Instagram. So
Okay, good. All right. Well, Deb, thank you so much. That was just really fun as always, and really helpful. I really appreciate that.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. And thank you everybody for joining us.
Yeah.